Hey everybody, it's Marty the JavaScript Party and buddy Rhett back there, just chilling. And we are doing some code. It is some pre-work code. I start work at 9. It is 8:27 this morning, and we have got a mystery. It was way more mysterious yesterday. Yesterday was just like 2 days ago when I started noticing that things had gone awry and weren't working as I expected. It was just like WTF. No idea what in the world could possibly be wrong. I mean, just none. Not the vaguest idea what it might be. Um, Today, and not even any sort of even a direction. You know what I mean? It was just like broken and just like why. And then today or yesterday we did sort of some debugging, just general pure research sort of debugging, looking for anything that might be broken. And I think we've got a little closer to understanding what might be wrong, but I still definitely don't understand what is wrong. But I've come up with a mission. So now at least a mission that maybe in the process of fixing that mission, of accomplishing that mission, I might discover what the issue is. Um, but well, there's really two issues. One that I just don't think there's gonna be like we're not gonna be able to actually fix one issue, and that's if we get more than like 16 visualizations, it just breaks. Um, and I think we're just gonna have to mitigate that. I don't think we'll be able to actually fix that one because I think the problem is in the API, in the Three.js API, which we don't really have any power over that. So it's just sort of a boundary that we need to work around. The other one is probably some kind of code issue, some sort of logical issue. But one thing that we see that's weird that maybe when we fix it, will a possibly well when we fix it, it may fix all of our other issues, but additionally, it may actually expose a problem that we have somehow set up. So here, if you hit, so the mission that we've chosen to accept is to figure out why this, once I add the second and the second one, it moves over. So what happens actually? So that's the next question. Is like, well, what happens if I get rid of this one? Then do we end up moving over? No. See, everything seems to work perfectly if, or not perfectly, but um, it works the same way if we. So that's another hint, right? Like, so if we don't do anything over here in the original constructor, if we don't set up any of these, then everybody's happy. But if we set some up, and then if we set at least one up, and then we set up another one, then it kind of doesn't reset itself. So it kind of seems like um, we don't have enough state. Like it seems like when I call, let's see, this setup visualizations, where's setup visualizations? When we call this, and then this calls the visualization to create a visualization, which seems weird, right? Because we are calling we're creating a renderer and then we're calling create visualization. So in English, that makes perfectly good sense. Um, and what we do is we actually go through each individual viz component and then we create the visualization. So it doesn't seem like if the visualization already exists, we should create the visual. We shouldn't recreate the visualization. So that seems like maybe in the set of visualizations, it shouldn't. Um, it doesn't seem like we should call this for every one of them. It seems like we should only call it for the ones that have already been created. So that makes perfect sense in English to me. You know, it's like, hey, we already did the create visualization. So we should only do the ones that haven't been created. So is there a way to tell if a visualization has been created or not? Visualization. It gets a renderer ID. So what does it look like? Okay, so that is the question, right? Like, what does it look like? Oh, let me use my little new button that I learned. Boom, we back, baby. So in this situation, setup visualization gets called twice, right? After viewing it. So one thing that's very different here is in this constructor, we create these renderers, right? And but the renderers don't actually exist in markup. But if we wait one or even 1 second or even 0 seconds, oh no, 1 second, we wait 1 second, then everything's been built out. So then we can do create like the timing of how these things all work together changes based on when you call it. And that is probably one of the most challenging things about Angular for people. And so you'll work at a lot of places where they're just like never do anything in the constructor, period. And it's just because, and I get that, like it makes sense, but it's just because the way things works a little different when you do stuff in the constructor versus when you do stuff after the template has stabilized. And I'm just kind of struggling with the right words for that, but that's how that works. So let's just do this. Let's put a debug on the looping part, right? Let's try that. I never even saw looping. Why don't I see looping? I guess it probably didn't give it to us. Okay, so right here. So we end up, we should have looping multiple times, right? So, and we should have looping when there's only one, and then we should have looping when there's three, right? Let's go to our looping. We're just going to put a debug there. We're going to hit reload. So the first time we go through, there should only be one component in our children. God, that's a terrible name. I have no idea why. And I'm just going to change that to there. Get rid of this. Run it out. Run it out again. And reload. And really, I want it to be right there. All right, so children, there's one, right? So when we look in here, is there anything in here that would indicate that it doesn't exist? That, it doesn't have a visualization associated with it. So let's come back over here. And then let's run it again. And now the next time we come in here, we're going to have 3 children. Yep. The first child, something is different about the first child than the other child. Render view child, st render input ID, which is a function. That's weird. Oh, because it's a signal. Let's see. Let's look at the second child. Let's see if there's anything different. So I don't see anything obviously different about the second child. So maybe it makes sense to add something. But we have to keep keep in mind that it's very soon, very, very soon, we're going to start working on import export. And when we work on import export, this stuff gets real tricky because basically you're doing what, I don't know if they still call it this, but back in the day they called it, you're going to serialize it. You're going to turn it from an object in memory into an object in text. And then you're going to want to deserialize it. And some things just don't transfer to memory. So what's the time? 8:37. I was like 2 minutes late yesterday to work. I felt really bad. But So I want to avoid that in the future. But see, sometimes I'm like 5 minutes early. Um, so I think it's okay, not to be so rigid, but you really don't want to get sloppy. And if you're consistently late, then you're being sloppy. Um, Personal. That's just purely personal opinion. Anyways, so let's look at a. So these are all Viz components. So a Viz component is actually an object, is actually a whole object here. Where are we? We are an app. If we go into components, see we have this. No, that's not components. Yeah, see we have this Viz component that's sitting in our components directory. All right, so, and it has this sort of strender input. It has these variables associated to it. I've never really played around with this, what we're about to play around with, but it kind of seems like I can mark this as initialized in memory, and then I don't have to worry at all about um, serialization of this thing because we aren't serializing the component itself. So we're only serializing like the objects that are defined by our interfaces. So, and see, those are the words. This is why probably one of the best side effects of making videos for YouTube, and like yes, only like 10 people ever consistently look at my videos, and then but I do have a couple of videos that have like hundreds or maybe thousands of people have looked at them, but the main best side effect of that, not the reason I do it, but the best side effect I do it, is it just really helps me practice putting things into articulating what's happening. And man, that is just such an important skill, which kind of again reminds me of like in the book The Alchemist. Well, like one of the keys to ever becoming an alchemist, someone who can truly do really well, is having lived in an environment where you had to communicate with things other than words. Like that was you had to become very, very good. So the guy, he had been a sheep herder, and so he had always had to communicate with his sheep, but they don't really understand words. And then he lived in places where they didn't speak his language. Um, so I think to become a really, really good developer and all that, you really do need to be able to articulate things. So I've never tried what I'm about to do right now. I'm just going to say has been initialized. And I'm going to set that to false. And I'm going to create a function in here. Set as initialized. I am way off of, I've never seen this. I don't know if this is the kind of thing that it's just a huge anti-pattern. I don't know, but true. I don't even know if this is going to work, but my goal is to, once something's been initialized, to call this function inside of this component and then set it to true, and then only do this if it's been set to false, and see if that fixes this shifting error. Now, if it fixes the shifting error, like if it just like immediately works and all that, then I don't know that I'll understand exactly why the shifting is happening, and I don't know that I'll ever care. I mean, I'll be able to say, oh yeah, it looks like it got called twice and blah, 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 but that doesn't truly explain. And I don't know, maybe there's some other underlying issue that will present itself. But we do add, I guess we add an extra sort of thing, extra complexity to this that we'll have to um, make sure that we always call things once. So we're going to say this dot, no, we're going to say child. Viz components, vix, viz components, and then I kind of feel like I must be on the right track of making a good video whenever Rhett is just kind of quietly listening. And that maybe I'm going on the wrong, in the wrong path when is, oh, okay, now I'm going to call this, instead of child, I'm going to call this viz component, or viz. Let's just call it viz. Viz component. Need to make sure that it's very obvious that, here it's very obvious that it's a viz component because we did the strong typing, but here it's not. The thing I really like about strong typing is that you can start at any time. Like, it's not like a lot of things in code where like you, like, oh, if you don't start off with strong typing, you're not gonna be able to, like unit tests, I think. If you don't start off with unit tests, it's gonna be really hard to retrofit unit tests. All right, am I on the wrong path here? I think I might be on the wrong path. I don't think she likes it when I talk about unit tests. You don't like unit tests? Rhett, do you like unit tests? Oh, she gave me a kiss, so I think she does like unit tests. She doesn't want me to say anything bad about unit tests. All right, so we call this a viz component. And then we're going to do set as initialized. Okay, and now, I don't know. I'm in adventure mode. I've literally never done anything where I like from like the parent called a function inside of something so I could set things. But I don't think I want to call create component if it's been initialized. And so working with ThreeJS, I worked with ThreeJS all last year and built an application where I got to a certain point where I was like, oh, I architecturally screwed myself, and there's certain goals that I want to achieve that I wasn't aware of before. So we're saying if it hasn't been initialized, if not viz component has been initialized, then call this, and let's see what happens. I don't have the vaguest idea. It seems logically everything seems to work. Oh yeah. I am the master of the universe. Woo! Woo, 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 woo. Woo, 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 woo. All right, so yeah, so that works. I don't know why. It makes sense that it works, you know, like when it did the calculations again. Let's see what happens if I wait. Let's do the same thing, but wait 2 seconds. Okay, so let's get rid of this. Theoretically, I should be able to just copy this and make this 2 seconds. And then we should be able to have 5. And they should all be laid out nicely. Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. So awesome. I almost feel like adding something to this where, like I say, hey, if it, like instead of the index being 0, like divide it out by 4, and then if it's a 4, like based on the modulus, let's go to ChatGPT. What is a modulus? So obviously I'm misspelling that. Modulus in code. So this is a arithmetic thing, right? So basically, it's the remainder, right? So if you know division, if you know arithmetic, then you know there's addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And then when you do division, it figures out how many holes are in some how many complete. So if you say how many in the number 11, how many twos exist, they'll be like there's five, and then there's a remainder of one, and another name for that remainder is the modulus, I believe. Um, so we could solve for the modulus, and then if we make 16 of these, they would all have the same animation. And I think that that would be a fun thing to do. It does kind of slow down things just for fun, but you know that's the whole point of this, or that's one of the points of this, is just to have some fun. And we did just go through quite a traumatic experience where it was just kind of like, oh shit, nothing works. I don't know what's going on. It's all broken. And then we kind of recovered ourselves. So maybe we should reward ourselves with a fun activity. So I don't think I have time to do it today. It is currently 8:48. Um, so modulus of the index. So let's say const modulus equals 4 index. I love you too. And then I think what we can do is say modulus instead. So the modulus of 4 and 0 will be 0. So the modulus of 4 and 1 will be 1, but it'll also be the same thing for 5. And then 4. So I feel like if all I ever did was stuff like this in these videos, was just set all kinds of stuff and then just say, hey, this is the modulus operator, and let's talk about modulus, that my videos would be a lot more popular. But I don't know. I think there's plenty of people doing that. No, it didn't work at all. Rat. I love you too, Rat. I love you too. So modulus was not a number. Was it? So 4 mod 1 is 0. 2 is 0. 4 mod 3 is, okay, so this is not working at all. Like what? 4. So do I need to? Okay, I guess that would be the same as 4 divided by 0, which is infinity. Was it 0 mod 4 then? Okay, so if this is the I. Okay, so I have that backwards. And that's the kind of thing that you'll quite often see, like in an interview test, and it's just kind of like one of those things where it's just like, no, I haven't worked with mod in a couple years, but you can come up to speed in a second. Oh, that's interesting. So it seems to be, oh, because it's, what am I doing here? If index modulus is 0, then the mesh is st meshes instead of, oh, that's the st meshes of the st renderer, which is the renderer that we're working on. But for some reason, it only affects. It is kind of cool though, because see how this one's moving faster than this one, which is moving faster than this one. It's just reapplying it over and over again to the first 4. And I think this is another really good example of like, I thought I understood how this worked. And it would only make sense that I would understand that this worked, but it does not seem to work the way I thought it would work. So like, it seems like what happened was it keeps updating. Okay, so let's do this. Let's see, what's the time? Okay, let's just step through this and then we'll just continue tomorrow. Okay, index of 0, so mesh, it goes to the st renderer. So this is for the renderer, right? So only this one renderer, and then animation service. And so then it adds that. And so if we hit this, so we should come in here twice now, right? Is that right? And the first one, okay, so let's go to st renderer. St scene? 3 scene? Anyways, I guess I need to bail on this at the moment. I would love to figure this out though, because I think it's I think I've sort of identified a hole in my understanding, and it's kind of crazy because I built this whole thing from scratch, and at this point I have gotten so focused on certain sections of the code that I've forgotten what the other sections of the code do. And that is really easy because we've already scaled up to a pretty big part for just one brain to try to understand and try to keep straight. So, you know, I think we as human beings have certain limitations that we're not aware of, and you can do a lot better when you are aware of the limitations. So anyways, 8:55, that gives me just enough time to upload this and log on to work before 9 o'clock. Happy coding, everybody. Hopefully tomorrow we'll have 16 of these things all animated where they're all identical. I think that's going to be a really fun and interesting, should be super simple. Like if I was in a stand-up, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's going to take me 2 minutes. As you can see, it's going to take longer than 2 minutes because obviously something doesn't work the way I think it works. Happy coding, everybody. Bye.